Hello, thank you. Appreciate everybody coming. I hope everybody's enjoying the conference. My name is John Vibes. That actually, as you might have guessed, isn't my government name. It's a pen name that my first customers gave to me way back in 2008. I started a business hosting underground raves back then called Good Vibes Promotions, so people just stuck with John Vibes. But ironically enough, one of the things that helped me make that a success was this AI program called Friend Blaster Pro. I always twist that up. But yeah, so it was a MySpace bot that would essentially harvest the URLs for all of my competition and send them friend requests and promotions and messages and things like that. I had my computer open all day running, doing that, and that was my first experience with AI. After that, I kind of experimented with some Twitter bots, but they kind of fell off after a while once the companies caught up and realized what was happening. So I think the MySpace bots was like the golden age of this. And I kind of stopped paying attention to AI for a couple of years until I started working with a startup called SolidWorld. And we're basically a climate tech startup who uses AI to analyze data to figure out where to fund forest restorations, places that are most likely to generate carbon credits, and also just where planting is actually going to be successful. So when we were about to launch our product, we had a scientific framework that we didn't know how to describe to people. It was extremely complicated, and I'm sure you all are in interesting fields where like you have complex ideas that you want to explain to people, and it's like a retail audience that you're trying to get to. At Lighter Labs, because we're like a small 9-person startup, I'm like the whole marketing team, so we outsource a little bit. We work with a great team called Low Labs, and they told us that you need to have an acronym. So I tried for like a couple hours to figure out an acronym for what we were doing, and it was extremely difficult. So I fed our white paper through ChatGPT, and I asked it to come up with a list of acronyms for us. And it came up with a list of really, really awesome acronyms. And we met together as a team. We went through the list, and we decided on CRISP, Carbon Risk Identification and Scoring Principles. And that's basically our scientific framework that analyzes these different risk factors that goes into planting and growing trees for forest restorations. And that was a big unlock for us, and it really helped us describe what we were doing to our customers, or what we were doing for our customers, rather. Yeah, so another thing I want to talk about, just to get in some actionable things, we use AI for our marketing a lot as well, in addition to our protocol. And I do the social media, and I like long-form content. I write books and articles and things like that, and so doing small announcements is like almost more work doing that copy sometimes. So I was doing it for announcements all the time, and I started to notice that all of the announcements look the same. There was this template. I know that's not how LLMs work. They don't work on templates. They generate ideas, but there are some words that are so common in announcements that they find their ways into this all the time. And so the one that I noticed was, "We're thrilled to announce blank. This is a testament to our blank. Together we can blank." That is basically how a ChatGPT announcement will look. And I started noticing this, and then I said something on Twitter, and then I actually, right after I said something about it, I scrolled through my feed, and I noticed that like 3 or 4 of our partners were thrilled in their announcement, and I was like, maybe I should like delete that post before I, But then I kind of thought of something, and I did a search on Twitter for "we're thrilled testament," and I got a list of so many companies and stuff using the same basic template that I was using too. And I'm not trying to call anybody out there. This is just the top of the list, and there were hundreds of them. All "we're thrilled to announce, this is a testament to our," and it's so what I think is, to get around this a little bit, you need to really be paying attention to the other announcements that are being made in your field and things like that. And you also need to be paying attention to the results that you're getting from ChatGPT when you're doing your own work. because there's going to be a lot of repetitive tasks. If you're launching a product, if you're launching multiple products, you're going to have to do it multiple times. So you're going to notice if the one announcement you're doing looks exactly like the previous one. So you're going to need to edit it out a little bit. And that kind of brings me to one of the things that I think people overlook a lot. And I think so much of the focus is on getting the perfect prompt and all that. And I think that that's kind of an oversimplified way of looking at this, because we're so used to how with tech has run for the past couple decades. You give an input, you get an output. And we've kind of been trained to think about tech that way. And people try to work with ChatGPT that way, and they get disappointed because they get generic outputs or they don't get the output that they want on the first time. And so this should be thought of as more of a collaborative process where you give the idea, you get the output, and then you start to collaborate with it to form it into what you actually want and something that's a little bit more unique. So that's most of, I think, the actionable stuff that I have as far as ChatGPT is concerned. So I want to talk about Midjourney a lot, Midjourney now, which is what I get into a whole lot with work, both in my own personal endeavors and with SolidWorld. I started out just messing around with it for fun because one of my coworkers told me about it, and I became obsessed with it. And then I started figuring out how we could apply it to what we were doing with SolidWorld for marketing. And I noticed that most of our feed, it looked promotional. We were doing announcements, partnerships, product launches, things like that. But we wanted content that was like not trying to promote us, that kept people coming back and kept people interested beyond just us trying to promote ourselves and sell people something. So I started doing these daily good morning posts with the Midjourney images, and they're like related to our theme of our environmental work. So when you see some of the images that I'm flipping through and some of the themes that I'm working with, try to think about how you could apply them in your industry and like what themes would work for you. So before I get into that though, I want to talk about a couple of parameters that help me get better and just more variations with the images that I can choose from in Midjourney. And this is the chaos and stylize prompts. So these are things that you could add on to the end of your prompts, and these are some of the sweet spots that I've found with it. So chaos gives you more variation in the images. So when you type something into Midjourney, you get a grid of 4 images, and a lot of times they look pretty identical. When you start to bump up the chaos value a little bit, that's when you start to see more of a difference between those 4 images. The chaos value goes between 1 and 100, with the baseline being at 1. And I found the sweet spot to be around 25, because if you go over 25, things start to get really weird. And the stylize is another one. Before I get on to stylize, I want to say that a lot of times I'll run my prompt through just regular prompt, and then I'll add the chaos value onto the second one I run, just so I get even more variations and see what they all look like. And then if I don't find one I like, I also try stylize, and sometimes I just try stylize as well to see what else I can get from that variation. And stylize basically it increases how good it looks, but at the same time, it uses more imagination and might take it further away from your initial prompt. So the values here are between 100 and 1,000, with 100 being the baseline, and you could go lower than that. And I like 250 and 500 are pretty nice. And you can actually set these as standard in the settings tab, but I prefer to just leave it so you can try all of them. So I want to get into some of the work that I've done with SolidWorld and kind of some of the prompt ideas I've had. So this was one of my favorite pictures that came out, and it really taught me a lot about how Midjourney worked, because I did not tell it to do this. I was just playing with words, because one of the things when I first started messing around with Midjourney, I was like, I want to see what language this thing speaks, you know? So this one was ocean blue in the sky. I don't know where I got that from. I don't know if it was a song or something, or if I was just typing poetic kind of things in there. But this is what came out, and I thought it was really cool. We used it for a lot of our marketing. People loved it. But I wanted to replicate it. I wanted to try to type like whale in the sky, floating in the clouds, and none of them turned out remotely like this. So you think when you're like talking to a robot, you need to be very mechanical, but sometimes with Midjourney, it appreciates the poetic stuff, and it can do some really crazy things if you try to express what you're trying to describe in a poetic way. You'll probably be really impressed with some of the results you get. And another example of that is a series that I did for Solid World called Regenerating Nature. And that is these animal creatures that you see kind of have these ecosystems on them. Here's another one with a polar bear, an elephant. I'm gonna kind of breeze through these a little bit for time. But the prompt for this was another kind of poetic thing that I got accidentally, and that is this style, animal name, Regenerating Nature. And this worked best in version 4. I don't know why, but it seemed to get the best results. And version 5 kind of, I haven't liked the results with that. But anyway, I put Regenerating Nature in there because the sector that our business is regenerative finance. So I was kind of playing on that term. And after that kind of got stale, and once again, think about how you can do your own theme for your style business. So to freshen it up, I kind of started doing digital versions of the Regenerating Nature. And these were animals with this kind of overlay of this matrix. And this was the prompt that I used for that. My most successful Midjourney project has been this trippy tarot deck I made. And I actually made the physical deck, and I probably sold like 80 decks or something so far, which isn't bad for AI art, but it's not something I'm gonna make a business out of. It was just for fun. But I'm gonna flip through these just like I did for the others. But one of the coolest things about this from a business perspective and with the narratives that we've had so far is you'll notice that there are actually the lettering on the bottom of there, which AI can't do. And I'm not great with Photoshop. I can't do it either. So I contacted my old graphic designer that I used to work with, and I hadn't really given him much work in the past 5 years. So here I am, because I was just doing other stuff. So here I am giving an artist work because of AI art, which is kind of ironic considering how everybody talks about how it's going to kill their jobs. I don't know, but I'm just saying, I don't know if there's other situations out there like that. I'd be interested to see. Another thing about Midjourney that's cool is you could blend images together. And I'll warn you, the next one of them's kind of creepy here. But when I was making the deck, I ended up with these 2 different characters that were so distinctly different, but I liked them both in their own way. So I combined them, and I got the one on the right that I actually ended up using for the deck. So if you have a project that you're working on and you end up with 2 images that you can't decide between, sometimes just smashing them together ends up making something even better. And I'll just go through a couple of the last ones here and get on to something new that I've been playing around with that you might have heard of, and that's Runway ML, and that's like a video program. Basically, it allows you to use text and image prompts to create 4-second videos. And it's really, I'll kind of show you what it's looking like at this point. If this plays, I think it can, yeah. So this is a mangrove restoration. This is what we do at Solid World. This is one of the types of forest restorations that we fund. And this is all AI generated video right here from prompts. And I did another one here, let's see, which is like a nightclub scene, going back to my first business. And it did it quite well. And one thing that I actually figured out, aside from the weird three-legged breakdancers and stuff, but you know. So one thing I figured out after this that was really cool with Runway was that if you so you get your 4-second clip. If you take a screenshot of the very last frame in that clip, then you can upload it as an image prompt, and Runway will continue the scene in the video. So I wish I could have put in like something with text on there, but it was like I just figured this out a couple days ago after I prepared this. So that's pretty much the best tips I've been able to figure out that are good for marketing. And if anybody has any questions, I'll open it up to that. But that's all I got. Thank you.